Hello, I'm Dani Louise Smith, the Queen of Business Organisation, and today I'm here with guest Charlotte Carter, who runs an amazing business called Charlotte Makes, and I've actually got a bit of her sparkles in my office and in my life because I've had a few things from her. So she's going to introduce what she does, but we're actually here today to talk about managing small business life around motherhood and managing it with PMDD. So if you've not heard of what PMDD is, I'm sure Charlotte will enlighten you and educate you on that because I feel there is education needed around that actually, isn't there?
Yeah.
Before we get into that discussion though, Charlotte, do you want to introduce who you are, what you do, and what your business is?
Oh God, yeah, I'm rubbish at these things. But yeah, I am Charlotte. I am mum of two little boys, and I've also got a dog. And my business, Charlotte Makes, was started like many in lockdown as a hobby. And it's kind of just grown really organically from there, which has been really, really nice. I make the most beautiful sparkly things. I mean, I'm a sucker for anything sparkly anyway. Started off as mostly birthday badges and soon moved on to little pin badges, slogan badges, bookmarks, key rings, cards, prints. I do a lot of things. So yeah, you can come to me for all your gifting needs in that sense. And I also locally run craft workshops and at home parties as well, which have been really, really nice. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. But I also, the reason I'm on here with you today, Dani, is because I also suffer a lot with my mental health, and I think it's really important to talk about it. I share a lot in my own Facebook group about my journey after being diagnosed with PMDD about 10 years ago now. Yeah, it must have been about 10 years ago. And how difficult that can be with managing a business, having children, working, managing a house, all sorts. So yeah, there's a lot going on as always.
And
Uh,
there's a lot to talk about, I
a
guess.
lot, a lot to talk about. Yeah.
And you do talk about it quite openly as well, which I love because when I see your post, you're quite honest, and I love that because it's like, oh, she's just said what I don't say, and I feel like when you do say it, it makes other people feel normal and that it's okay to think this way or say things like this to ourselves, or I mean, not okay like putting ourselves down when you are struggling mentally, but I mean like with navigating motherhood or business that it can be challenging, and it's okay to admit that. I
Yeah.
want to just go back to your business for a second because I just want to kind of bring some awareness for those that have followed my journey because there's a few listeners that have followed me since the beginning. So if you ever saw me wearing a sparkly crown, or you ever bought my first planner and you got that sparkly bookmark with it, oh, and it's behind me if for
Yeah, I
anyone
can
watching
see it. I
YouTube.
love it.
This one as well. I forgot that was there. It's just always the crown there. That's actually made by Charlotte. All of that's been made by Charlotte. Because they're beautiful, sparkly things that obviously this was a while ago, this one last a while.
It was.
Um, and they are just amazing. And I also wanted to mention the fact of like I remember when you said to me that you wanted to do these workshops and you wasn't sure if it was a good idea or if people be interested. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. Because I'm just gutted that you're not near me because I would be doing them. But now they're a thing, aren't they? You
They
actually
are, yeah.
pass the
They are.
workshops.
They're a big thing, yeah, and it's really, really nice because it was on a was it on a one-to-one with you, and you sort of were like, just
Yeah.
it, and yeah, it just gave me the kick up the bum that I needed to just get it out there because it was an idea I was sitting on for so long. And yeah, I just love getting people together and giving people a reason to kind of take a break from their own sort of hectic lives and just give them that space to just get creative, take 2 hours out for them. They're really, really nice. So yeah, they are a thing locally, and yeah, I just couldn't have wished for more really in terms of that.
So if anyone's interested in that, where is it that you're based that they can come and check that out?
So I am based in Peterborough, but I do say that I'm happy to sort of travel about an hour away. So that covers quite a large area, really. And I have had people kind of approach me who do live up to an hour away. for at-home parties as well, and children's parties as well. That's a growing thing. So yeah, they can just get in touch and we can see what we can do.
I definitely think anyone listening should, because they are just, it sparkles, like, to say no more. So you do share your journey, which is amazing, as part of like sharing what you're doing with your business, which I've loved seeing. So with motherhood, so you know, you wanted to talk about managing small business life and then as a mum and with PMDD. So when it comes to motherhood, what do you think are the biggest challenges for business owners as a mum?
Do you know, it's interesting that this podcast recording has fallen sort of, you know, in the summer holidays, because
Yeah.
obviously it's just such a hard time. And I actually close my order books in the summer holidays. There's no other way I could do it. I just physically couldn't get in my craft room every day. It's, my children are 7 and 5, so they're still really young, and they're still so demanding, like they need me, and I want to be there. I don't want to have to miss out. And although I use my craft room as my kind of therapy space, and I actually posted about that in my group yesterday, that is my form of self-care, I also don't want to miss out on being there for my children and sharing those experiences while they're still so little, in the holidays, while they still want to spend time with me. So
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that really answers your question, because I think depending on when you asked, if you asked it sort of midterm time, it would probably be a really different answer. But I think for me, the most difficult thing at any time is just striking that balance.
I agree with that, and I see this a lot in like my clients, and I think this is probably the reason like a lot of people do these things like your business when you're older, because the kids have flown the nest and it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like I've got 2 of my 3 kids are the exact same age as yours,
Mhm.
and like one of them actually interrupted a session the other day. Lucky it wasn't like a client session or anything, but he just doesn't understand. No, I'm in my office.
Yeah.
And I work really like well on boundaries. Most of my clients know this, but still, you just can't prevent them coming and interrupting, and it is a challenge. It's easier for me than most people because my husband's at home, so he's there for the kids, but they do the thing, don't they, where they walk straight past dad and come to mum. They go to the one that's busy. That's what we've figured out. Go to the one that's busy. But it is a challenge. I feel like I've mastered a balance. So like for me, I'm the opposite. I would miss work so much in summer that I couldn't think of anything worse than having that time off. I probably wouldn't even come back into the flow of work. But I love that you've done it in a way that works for you, and I'm a huge advocate of that because I feel it's so important. So like my balance has been working 3 days instead of 4, which has worked really well because I get to do the stuff I love in my business. But then when it's been my days off, we've just had to add activities booked. God, it's been an expensive summer, but we've loved it. It's been
Yeah.
so fun. And they always say you can't take your money with you, so
You
so why not?
No, you can't.
Um,
And like that, and I think that is key. But I think that, like, it is really important. The hardest thing has been striking the balance, but I think there's more to it than that. It's like striking the balance for my own mental health as well. Because I just
yeah,
linked it straight back into the mental health side of it. Like if I knew that I had loads and loads of orders to complete, but I had to entertain my boys in the day, that would really stress me out. So for
yeah.
me, closing my order books just helps me keep that sanity. And trust me, I'd rather be in my craft room some days. Like they've driven me insane this holiday. I would rather be in my craft room some days, and I do sort of pop in there, have a little play around, or I make up a little order, or some something. I'll go in there and have a little play sometimes. So I do get that, like what you were saying about how you can think of anything worse than not working.
Yeah.
So that does carry on a little bit, but yeah, it's all about looking after my mental health in that sense.
I love that. And I think it really is important, isn't it? Like if because obviously I've been in a place where I had a product business, and I feel the demand with a product business is a lot more challenging than a service, because with my service-based business, I can book an hour here for clients. In fact, I've set this is the availability I have for clients over summer, and then that's it. So I'm in here or I'm out of there, and it's one or the other. But when you are creating, like physically creating the product as you do and as I used to do, the difference is you just never know how long it's going to take. Like my machine would go wrong, or I just can't even imagine. Like, say something like a sparkly material didn't arrive on time, then you'll step back and you have to catch up because you've met this demands to get this order out, and it's just it is a challenge to navigate. And I think there's a correlation between being self-employed and mental health as well.
Mhm.
I mean, as much as great as it is, and I'm an advocate for working for yourself because in fact, the reason I came out of employment was because of my mental health. Well, one of the reasons,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it's really hard to navigate being self-employed and balance as being a mum and then your mental health as well. And then for most of my audience, throwing stuff like perimenopause or ADHD or other neurodiversity,
Yeah.
it's a massive whirlwind, isn't it, to kind of get through.
Yeah.
So I'll
Oh,
go
go
on.
on. No, no, I was just going to say I think if I'm this might be wrong, so someone might say that this is wrong, but I think PMDD comes under the umbrella of neurodiversity, and that's a lot of people don't realize that. It's also very closely linked with ADHD, which I have actually had a diagnosis of, and I haven't done any posting because I don't want people, it's one of those, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I know what you
I
mean.
don't want people to think that I'm jumping on the bandwagon or
Yeah.
anything like that. But actually, for me, it that diagnosis has really helped me understand myself and the impact that PMDD then has on me. So actually, it's really helped me to understand my PMDD, if anything.
And I agree with that. I think it's so important that we do understand ourselves in order to be able to navigate life. Never mind like being a mum, having a business and all these things. And what's really interesting there is that I've actually got a couple of friends that have got PMDD, but are also diagnosed ADHD. So I've never really noticed
Yeah, there
that
is a link,
connection before. So that's
strong
quite
link.
interesting.
But
Yeah.
also with PMDD and like autism as well, there's a real link. But yeah, it's really high with ADHD.
There's a lot of things that do correlate, isn't there? Like when we sat down for my son's second referral from school referred this time for assessment, and we were talking about my husband being referred because he's been referred now too for autism and ADHD, but he's diagnosed with hypermobility joint disorder, and then he's got other conditions. But we have worried about the kids possibly coming out with like symptoms of hypermobility, and it turns out I'm hypermobile, so the kids are just buggered in all honesty. Poor kids with us too. But I think there's a lot of this that happens and people aren't aware of it. But what turned out is that the Senko that we were working with at the time was like, well, this is so common, just like dyslexia and dyspraxia and dyscalculia, I can't say it,
Yeah.
all are with neurodiversity. So usually you don't just get one diagnosis, you
No.
pick up a fruit. It's like a pick and mix that's not so sweet
Just have it
sometimes.
all.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, do you want to kind of introduce us to what PMDD is?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to it, but PMDD stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And I think the key word in there is the dysphoric. So think of it like almost, it's not psychosis at all, but that's the kind of line that it goes down. It affects 1 in 20 women, but I would not be surprised if it was more. I think more and more people are, realizing that they've got it. I know at least 3 others in my close circle that I
Yeah,
think they've got
I
it.
do as well, actually. I know
Yeah.
3 people.
And I think that's a lot. That is a lot. If you think of just, they're my closest people, my sister, my best friend, and someone else. So, it's on the rise, and it just hasn't got the recognition that it needs within the medical kind of environment, I suppose. And I think the biggest key is understanding that it's not, so my hormone levels, as someone that suffers with PMDD, my hormone levels are normal. They wouldn't show up as anything else on any sort of hormone test for as sort of abnormal or anything. It's I describe it as like an allergic reaction to my own hormones. So
Yeah.
as my hormones rise and fall, which obviously they do throughout the whole month, I don't know if I've shared it before, but that is a really interesting graph which shows you the rise and fall, or a typical rise and fall of hormones throughout the menstrual cycle. So it's those rises and then those falls that affect me mentally, physically, any way imaginable, every single month. And it's that I think people often get confused with. I think a lot of people think it is because I've got an abnormal amount of progesterone or something. My hormone levels are normal. It's my body's reaction to those rises and falls. So that is sort of that in a nutshell. But it's just a minefield, Dani. And my symptoms are different every month. Like this month, again, this has come at a really good time because I'm in full-on PMDD mode at the moment. Like you probably can't tell, I've grown up masking. I'm really good at that and just sort of putting on a front. But I have been, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it.
I have been a mega bitch this week, just awful to be around. And I know I am, because I don't even like being in my own head. I haven't enjoyed being my own self this week. And the symptoms that I've had this week have mostly been physical. So I've barely slept, so real insomnia, really vivid dreams, like crazy dreams, headache, nausea, the irritability is through the roof, you know, all of those things that a lot of people actually get from month to month, and they're really similar to just normal PMS and PMT symptoms that a lot of women experience. I think the difference is when it really affects your relationships and your day-to-day life. And in my case, it definitely does. It just kind of makes me want to go and hide in a cave for the week every month. So yeah, it's really it's debilitating at times, and it does cause real issues with friendships, my business, my children, my husband. And yeah, it's something that I have to learn to manage, or I have had to learn to manage.
And you've done really well at that, actually, haven't you? You've learned a lot about yourself and educated yourself around it and navigated that, I think, really well anyway.
Well, thank you, because you know, when you're living it, you don't feel like you have. But
Yeah.
do you know what? When the biggest thing for me has been sharing it. It's been sharing, because for years, for about 5 or 6 years, I was almost a bit embarrassed, and nobody really knew what it was, and didn't really know how to talk to people about it. But one thing that somebody said to me years ago was, don't underestimate the power of hormones. And oh my God, they affect everything. They affect everything. And that does scare me, because when I'm in a full-on PMDD episode, is what I call it, I'm just a monster. And actually, it's quite often misdiagnosed as bipolar, because that's how it feels, and schizophrenia, because that's how it feels. So there's a lot to be learned, and there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to know about it. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, sharing it in my Facebook group. That's been the biggest key to me, because in sharing it and in educating other people, the amount of people that have come out the woodwork and sort of said, you've just described me, like,
yeah.
So the amount of people that are like, thank you so much for bringing this to my awareness. I had no idea about it until you talked about it. And I just think that's been really key for me in helping me to kind of manage it, I
Talking
guess.
does though, doesn't it? Like, there's been a big that Britain Get Talking promotion thing that ITV have been doing with Ant and Dec or whatever, has been quite big. And as we all know, it helps when you're struggling with your mental health to talk. So because of that aspect of it from PMDD that impacts your mental health, because of those rises and falls of your hormones, it makes sense that talking about it has helped, because you've been quite open about it. I think for me, I know when I'm struggling with something, I like to journal, I like to write, that helps, but journaling can be vocal as well.
Yeah,
So writing it down or sharing it with someone and speaking it out, and even just any response to that can massively, massively help. First of all, you feel like you're not alone, like you've just
yeah,
shared, like people relate. And second of all, it's a release, and I think it's so important to do that. Is there any top tips that you would have for navigating everything that you navigate? So motherhood, business, and PMDD and mental health. Like, how have you managed to still be running a business so well and take summer off to look after yourself and protect your mental health, but not affect your business in a negative way? Yeah, how have you done all this? Because it's amazing.
yeah. Well, I think when it comes to my business, like that's kind of happened so organically. I don't necessarily, I mean, obviously I am the face behind my business, but I think because the products are just so beautiful, people will just always come back for more anyway. So I
Yeah,
think I'm lucky in a sense. I don't know if that's the right word, but you know, the products speak for themselves. So people do always come back for the next birthday badge or, you know, whatever it is. So in terms of that, I feel like, I don't know. I think for me, the key part of it has been to track my cycle. And I would
yeah,
actually say this to any woman, just understand your cycle, do a bit of research. I mean, I don't even, like, my inbox is open. I will talk to anybody about this. I'm absolutely not an expert on it, but I am fascinated about the impact that it has. And actually, if people say to me, I'm really struggling mentally, blah, 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 I will always say to them, where are you in your cycle?
yeah,
Because it has such a big impact. And so for me, that has been key to educate myself about my own cycle. So I use that Flow app to
I
track my
use that.
cycle. And that has been a godsend, really, because when I'm having a rough day, actually I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll look at my app, that makes sense, I'm ovulating, or I'm 3 days before my period, that makes a lot of sense why I'm feeling depressed, or, you know, anxious, or imposter syndrome alert, you know, that kind of thing. So that would probably be my biggest tip, to track your cycle. And there's so many different apps that you can use to do that, but also familiarize, like, your partner with that as well, because my husband, like, bless him, he tries his hardest, but he doesn't understand it. He's not a woman.
Mm,
He and he There have been times over the years where I sort of said to him, like, just please read up on it, because I can't, I'm getting to grips with it myself. So you need to kind of get your head around it too. And he has, and he's very good. So I suppose it's not just my husband, it's my mum, it's my really close circle, I suppose. To
yeah,
have
those close
all,
relationships.
and actually I call them my shit circle. So I can dump my shit on them. So there's like 3 or 4 people who are in my shit circle, and I can message them, ring them at any time and dump my shit. Like, that is what, actually, that came from my cancer diagnosis. I had my shit circle. But actually I've sort of kept it. So yeah, I've got a shit circle, knowing that they've got a shit circle. So my shit doesn't weigh them down, because I know that they can go to their shit circle. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
basically, your support network. So choose your support network really wisely, and have 3 or 4 people that you can just dump on when you're feeling really, really crap. So that's been key. And I think, look after yourself. Like, that has just been, you are number one. And Dani, I think you really helped me work out my boundaries when it came to my business. And I will say no. Like, if people message me and say, can you do this? I will now say no, but I didn't at the time. And I've now worked a structure within my business, because I work in a school well, it's now going up to 3 days a week. 3 days a week. So I have to be really, what's the word? Structured. I then time block the rest of my week when I've got that time, but I also don't want it to eat into family time. So I no longer work in the evenings, or I might do sort of once a week. So it's just about having those boundaries in place. I think they are, and you talk about them a lot. They've been really key for me. And
I think this is amazing to hear, because I remember talking about this.
yeah,
He was like, right, I'm going to be teaching this time, and then you wanted to still do your business, and you was like navigating that. But to see you, because you were in my membership, weren't you? And I closed it, and I know you've got your support circle and you've had coaching at other places, which is amazing to see as well, because I've seen the relationships you've formed, and it's just been amazing to see. But to see you where you are now with it, juggling still, as we all do, but balance, you've found balance that works for you as well. And now you're here telling it and sharing it, and I love that.
Oh, thank you. Well, you have been like pretty instrumental in that journey as well, Dani, like back in the beginning, and building it all up and setting those foundations for the business, because it has been key. And I don't think I'd have been able to carry it on without those things in place.
Well, I guess that's just where, like you were saying, tapping into the support. You worked with me, you've worked with other mentors, coaches, whoever you needed, that became your support system as well. And I think no matter what challenges you face, that is, for me, that's the biggest thing. Like, I can't imagine. I've literally just booked a one-to-one in-person day with a business coach I used to work with, who I'm going back to work with. And she's just literally gone to me, who are you? Because of all my plans. And I'm like, well, I am the best version of me because of, and I just listed all the names, like her and all the people that have, I guess, are in my shit circle, or that have helped me with my business and all my challenges, and it does make a difference. So I've loved that, and I've loved your story today as well, sharing it. This has been such an interesting, I could be here all day listening, and I'm sure others could as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Honestly, it's nice to have a space to share it.
Definitely. And thank you for doing this as well. I've just got one more question, and that is what I ask everybody who comes on this podcast. And I'm interested to see what your answer will be. And that is, what's your best tip to being organised within your business?
You're really putting me on the spot.
Everybody says that.
So am I allowed to?
Yeah, go on then.
Okay. So for me, being organised in my business, time blocking is probably, so on a Sunday or Monday morning, I'll sit down and I'll time block my diary, so I know exactly. And I'm not great at it. Like, some weeks I forget, but on those weeks that I forget, my head is all over the place. So it's definitely helpful for me to time block my diary, so I know when the boys are doing their clubs. I know when I even block lunch in there, and I block the dog walk in there, because otherwise it will just slip my mind and it will just go. So yeah, time block your diary. Even if you just do it every day, just, you don't have to do the whole week, just do it every day. But it does help me to do Monday to Sunday. And then the second tip, I think, is just having those boundaries.
Yeah.
Because it does link to organisation, I suppose, because
definitely, that's why I talk about it.
Yeah, it does. I think having those boundaries are really important.
They are, as you've already said, and it really is vital, because, like, if I didn't have boundaries, I couldn't be as organised as I am. So that's kind of my pre-work before I get into, and this is how we organise your business. It's actually, first we need clarity and boundaries, then we can take the action, and it's always key. Yeah,
I do think they're my top two.
And
there's loads more. I feel like I could also be here forever, but yeah, they're my top two.
Thank you so much for sharing this today. I've loved this episode. If you want to go connect with Charlotte at Charlotte Makes and discover what sparkles she's got available, see more about her PMDD journey and what you're sharing, where can they come and find you?
So I am on Instagram at charlotte.makes, but I think the best place is my Facebook group. So I guess you'll link that up.
Yeah.
It's cool. Really bad. I can't even remember what it's called. It's really something like, I can't remember. We'll put it in the group. We'll put it in the bio. But yeah, my Facebook group is where I share most of my personal or more personal stuff. I do want to start sharing it a bit more on Instagram as well, but I feel like my group is a really safe space for me, and it is like that's like my journal. So it's like a nice community as well, isn't it? Yeah,
I see you post and all the comments that just
I
come with
know.
it. It's so nice. I
Yeah.
love seeing communities like that. It's so nice.
Yeah, it's a really nice, I have created a really nice space. There's lots of lovely women in there, and lots that experience similar things. So I was going to say that's good. It's not good that they experience similar things. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice to be together. So
Definitely. So call to action, get yourself in Charlotte's group. If you're a mum, you're a business owner, you find it challenging with PMDD, because that is going to be a dream for you to connect with like-minded people. Thank you so much, Charlotte. It's been a pleasure today to have you on this podcast.